Hey everybody, so glad to be joined today by Vanessa Parra. Can't wait to learn more about your background, your story, your podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please tell us more about your story and your background, the history of your podcast, and also kind of what you're up to next with Digital Nest and some of your other projects. Thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you, Jordan, for having me today. I'm really excited to be a guest. It's really exciting to see another person in the creative field, starting a podcast, because I know a lot of people want to start a podcast, but they're
Yeah,
not very consistent. There's, I think, like stats where someone will, when they start a podcast, they'll probably create like 8 episodes and then they give up. So this is like a long thing if you want to
yeah.
continue doing it. So I applaud you for starting a
Thank you.
podcast and I wish you much luck.
Thank you. Well, like I said earlier, I've done some stuff in studio. I've done content, as a realtor and in the music space. Um, and I did some lives during the pandemic, but this is the official start of the new podcast. And so you are officially episode number 3. So thank you for joining. I
Thank
think we're
you.
going to make it to 8 and beyond. And like we said,
Yeah.
starting off on Zoom because it's the simplest way to do this. But eventually we're going to have a studio and do it next level. So hopefully you'll come back when we have our own studio, right? So
Yes.
but yeah, tell those that are watching and listening more about your background, where are you from, where'd you grow up, and kind of how we met, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Awesome. So again, I'm Vanessa Parra, and I am a marketing strategist and a job developer. So my background has been in marketing, specifically in the hospitality and tourism industry. And before I go into more detail, I just want to share a little bit about my backstory for you to really understand why I do what I do.
Please do.
So I'm a first generation Mexican American. I'm originally from the Central Valley, from Visalia, California.
I
I'm
said,
I'm the first in my family to go off to college. I graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I received a bachelor's in graphic communications. Originally, when I first went to college and decided to pursue that degree, my dream was to have a like Latino, Latinx type of magazine
mm,
because back then you never really saw that type of like mainstream magazines or like anything like that. It was either all English or all Spanish. And I knew being first generation Mexican American, a lot of my cousins and family and people I went to school with, we enjoy being both American and Mexican and enjoy both cultures, but we didn't really see much representation at that time. So that was my initial dream. However, as many know, the print industry, I don't want to say it's dying because you still need print, right, for like packaging and
mm,
other things, but it's changing. And right now, everyone's going more digital. And so my goals changed. So when I graduated from college, it was during the recession and it was hard. I couldn't find a job. I really wanted to get into marketing.
mm,
I didn't have a network, I didn't have mentors, I didn't know anyone. I don't even think I didn't even have a portfolio. I didn't have anything, right? And it took me a very long time to get into marketing. And the way my career journey went was that my first job out of college was as a recruiter.
mm,
And so I would talk to different business owners, recruiters, hiring managers, and I learned really quickly what they look for when filling certain roles. I did really well, relocated to Salinas, and that's where I live. And I became the branch manager, did a lot of recruitment. And on my own time, I volunteered and I tried my best to grow my marketing skill sets, create a portfolio. But again, a lot of it was on my own. And so it took me a very long time to get into marketing. And eventually, once I got my foot in the door, I'm a very driven and passionate person. So I've grown my career in marketing for the past 10 plus years. But as you all know, during the pandemic, hospitality and tourism got hit really bad, and a lot of my coworkers were unemployed. Restaurants, hotels were closed, so it was really hard. And during the pandemic, when most people, I guess, didn't know what to do with their careers, or, it was just a lot of uncertainty. For me, I took that time to invest in my personal development to learn a lot of skill sets. I even took some clients online, and I dabbled into real estate marketing because, ironically, even though the hospitality industry was hurt, real estate was booming, right, during the
Mm.
pandemic. So I figured I have transferable skills. So let me do some marketing in real estate and figure out how maybe even someday I could be a real estate agent, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I dabbled into that, and I actually hosted a lot of virtual online trainings where I taught real estate agents how to use video to do personal branding, promote their businesses. I really enjoyed it. And like I mentioned, I just invested a lot of time and money trying to grow my skill sets, and the best way to gain experience is by actually doing the thing, right? If there's something that you really want to learn or overcome, it doesn't matter how many books you read, or if you go to college, or if you don't go to college. The best way to learn is just by doing it, doing a lot of mistakes, learning from your mistakes. And so, again, I did that. But at the end of the day, real estate marketing wasn't for me. And I transitioned back into hospitality and tourism because by 2021, 2022, the doors start opening again, right? And businesses were opening up, and I started getting into that. However, I'm pretty sure even to this day, a lot of businesses are still hurting, right? Because our budgets are smaller. And a lot of times businesses expect marketers to take on more responsibilities than they're supposed to. And I also think it's funny how a lot of people that don't really understand marketing expect a marketer to have all these different skill sets, right? From copywriting, digital marketing, social media, photography, be like a video editor, so many skill sets that in reality, yes, you might find people that might know a little bit about everything, but they're not going to be true experts. That takes time, right? And eventually, when you're growing in your marketing career, you become like a specialist or you have a niche, and that's where you grow. And so, stuff like that. And after a while, even though I enjoy being part of, or I enjoyed being part of the hospitality and tourism industry, that type of marketing involves a lot of events and working holidays, weekends,
Yeah.
nights. And I have a daughter, I'm married, and it was really affecting my work-life balance,
Right.
my family. And so at that point, I decided that I wanted to see what else was out there.
Yeah.
And I had always followed Digital Nest. For those that may not know what Digital Nest is, it's a nonprofit that helps Latinx and all underserved communities find the resources and mentorship to find careers in creative fields or with tech companies. So we have so many different programs for those type of youth, starting from ages 14 to 24. So there's different departments, different programs, but the one program that Digital Nest offers is called BizNest, and it's a creative agency
Mm.
that has internships for different departments in graphic design, video production, IT, web development. And I saw a role as employer engagement manager open up, and I was really interested in seeing more into that role because this person helps promote, right?
Mm.
Digital Nest and helps place these interns in those creative fields or in those tech companies. And I'm very passionate about helping the Latinx and all underserved community to find those jobs because I can relate to those interns. Again, being first generation Mexican American, having no resources, mentorship. Like I mentioned before, it took me a really long time to land that first marketing job. So with these interns, I get to coach them, right, on interview tips, give them feedback on their resumes, give them feedback on their portfolios, connect them with mentors. I get to represent Digital Nest at different events, like a Salesforce hosted a Hispanic Heritage event, and we were invited to attend. So I was there representing Digital Nest, and
Very cool.
I really am enjoying working for Digital Nest and this specific role because I get to combine all the skill sets that I've learned throughout the years from recruitment, from partnerships, marketing, placing people in jobs, stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying this role, and Digital
Great.
Nest is growing.
Yeah.
So I know eventually we would like to offer digital marketing, and that's something, again, I would love to grow with the company and be
Yeah.
a part of. But
Well, shout out to Digital Nest. They're doing
yeah.
amazing work. And if anybody watching or listening doesn't know about it, they should definitely check them out. What an amazing story and journey. And I know obviously there's so much more to it, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And I didn't realize how similar some of our backgrounds are as far as marketing and
Yeah.
hospitality, and real estate. And I have been in those industries as well. And so I know that they're cyclical. I know that they're up and down. Um, and like you said, it can be a great creative expression, but it also can be stressful and inconsistent. And sometimes a lot of folks in those industries don't appreciate the hard work that marketers do or all that goes into it. I've noticed that. And so, but I'm grateful for my experience in marketing and events and real estate because it taught me a lot. I met a lot of great people. Um, and now I'm still doing some of those things, but I'm also kind of in the government sector, which is very different than those others. And I appreciate it though. It all kind of culminates in making you who you are, those experiences. So I can relate in some ways. My grandparents came from Mexico on my dad's side, from Juarez in the Bracero program, from Juarez to Watsonville. And my dad, grew up in that area and was able to go from working in the fields and agriculture here in the Pajaro and Salinas Valley to working in Silicon Valley in the tech industry in the 80s and 90s. And so he was traveling the world, and I got exposed to a lot of different things through that. So kind of have those hardworking agricultural roots, but then also transitioning into technology. And we're in this really unique space being here in the greater kind of Bay Area, Silicon Valley with tech, but also with agriculture. It's a really interesting mix. And we all share a similar story and connection in that way. So I love, the content that you create. I love the story that you've had, and it's encouraging to see, like you said, you've had to evolve, right? So I know that I think the first way that we met was through our mutual friend Crystal Mercado Murphy, who is one of my best friends that I've known for, gosh, over 20 years now. Her and her husband Micah, great friends of mine. They were in my wedding, and so we have worked on projects. So tell me, a lot of times people in the traditional path have a real linear mindset towards the progression of your career, right? So you go to school, you get a job, you get a promotion, etc. That has kind of changed because of our generation, because of the different forces at play economically and socially. And on one hand, there's challenges that come with that, right? We don't have maybe the golden parachute or the some of the retirement plans or the pensions that previous generations had. But what the internet has done to disrupt print media, to disrupt television, has opened the door for independent journalism, independent marketers. Things like Canva or AI are eliminating marketing departments and the corporate world, but it's empowering individuals like yourself, like myself, to do the work that a team of 10 used to do. An entire department we can do ourselves with a push of a button, right? So talk about some of those changes. Maybe career-wise, it was challenging at first, but how have you overcome those uncertainties to now use them to your advantage?
So I completely agree. Like I mentioned, it was my career has evolved. But what I think a lot of people should know that it doesn't matter what role you land. I think any role that you land or any company you work with, there's always going to be transferable skills that you can leverage in the future for your dream role or if you're starting a business. I know with marketing, a lot of the skill sets that I've gained it because I've invested in a coach or been part of a mastermind. Honestly, not even in school. Yes, I'm not going to say school isn't important. It is, but a lot of, at least with digital marketing, a lot of it wasn't taught in school. And I had to learn on my own. And so that's something that people just need to realize that I mean, if you would like to go to college, great, right? But you don't have to gain skill sets through college. You can gain it through other avenues. The other thing I wanted to mention that at least with marketing, I think that marketers are really lucky because all the skill sets they learn, even though I know marketing can be a little unstable, right? Because when companies have money issues, unfortunately, sometimes marketing is the first budget that gets cut. And I know a lot of marketers that have been unemployed. But
Yeah,
the benefit of being a marketer is that, like you mentioned before, there's so many businesses, small businesses that need that support, right? That maybe they
absolutely.
can't hire a full-time marketer or can't hire a marketing team, but they might hire you as a freelancer or as a contractor. Throughout my career, I've been a freelancer. I've helped businesses with, again, their personal branding or running their social media channels or just providing them with like a marketing strategy. And I've been on and off just because that alone is very difficult as well
Sure.
because I've been on big marketing teams where I've managed teams and then I've had marketing roles where it's just a marketing team of one.
Right.
And I see the pros and cons for both. And for me right now in the season of my life, I would like to do both, right?
Right.
To earn the extra money, but also have a secure income. And I don't see anything wrong with that. In the
Absolutely.
future, maybe I'll go all in and help other marketers, right? Which
Well,
I'll talk shortly, talk
yeah.
about my podcast, how that helps a lot of marketers. But like I mentioned with marketing, it's just you gain so many great skill sets that you can leverage those for a career in marketing or helping businesses as a freelancer or starting your own marketing business.
So, and I love that you say that. Some people have asked me, well, what's the point of your podcast, or what's the theme, or what's the hook, and I say, I'm still kind of figuring that out, but my goal was just to have a platform for people like yourself, similar generation, similar background, to talk about their journey, what they've overcome, what they're into, what they're doing now. And I think there's a lot of, you know, different content out there. Some is super positive and kind of unrealistic and out of touch. Some is super negative and it's like overwhelming, all the news and all the different things that are out there. I tend to be more positive and optimistic, and glass half full kind of person. Or we can acknowledge that the glass may be half empty, but what are we going to do about it? That's kind of my approach, right? And so understanding, and I love that you mentioned the cultural dynamics because I struggle with that a little bit myself. I'm born in the States, but also have Mexican heritage. And you can be both simultaneously, right? So I love visiting Mexico. I love the culture. I speak Spanish, but it's not perfect. And in some ways, kind of felt like an outsider in both worlds. Kind of felt like I didn't quite fit in either world, right? And I know there's a lot of people, a lot of millennials that feel that way, not only culturally, but also career-wise, because it's like, well, we understand the traditions. We went to college. We understand how to shake someone's hands, write a resume, look someone in the eye, dress professionally. But we also understand technology. We also understand the emerging things, right? So I think there's a lot of us that are in that boat, like you mentioned, kind of that millennial, maybe younger Gen X, older millennials that are and that in between generation, right? On every level. And so now we're seeing, especially if you live in California and it's the cost of living is so high, you need to have kind of multiple hustles. And so there are some people in the traditional space that will say, like, oh, no, just go to school, get a job, and that's it. And then there's other people who are entrepreneurs who will say, oh, if you have a job, you're a loser. If you go to college, you're a loser. And that other extreme. And I think that there's a space which I think most of us are in, where you're kind of somewhere in the middle. You believe in education, but you know it's not the answer for everything. You also have a passion to be an entrepreneur, but maybe you don't want to roll the dice and put your whole livelihood on the line every month just for that passion project. And so now I'm in the same boat where I have a job. I also have a business. I'm also doing passion projects like this podcast. And that's okay. And I think each one of those things wants to demand our full attention, but in reality, like, we don't have to do it that way. You can be multi-passionate, and that's why I love our mutual friend Crystal, because we have those conversations all the time. Because your family's going to want to demand all your attention, your career is going to demand your attention, and then as an entrepreneur, that whole conversation is different. But I think, and you're doing it, and I'm sure you've had plenty of times where it wasn't perfectly balanced, but I think we can work to find that balance. And I feel like I'm hitting that stride personally, and it feels great. And so I'm glad to connect with someone like yourself who also understands juggling those plates. Can you speak more to that?
Yes. Um, there's so much I could say, but I think it really comes down to if you want to be able to do different things, like have a career, have a side hobby or passion project, you really have to have a reason why you're doing it, right? It's not just you being passionate, but there has to be like something that is inspiring you to do it. So, at least for me right now in the season of my life, with Digital Nest, I believe in the mission, right? To help Latinx and all underserved community find jobs in creative fields and tech. That's my own personal mission outside of Digital Nest. So being able to align my personal goals with my employer's goals makes my job so much fun. Like it doesn't even feel like work, and it's easy for me to speak about it, which at the same time doing my passion projects like my podcast marketing with Cultura. I did this prior to me even joining Digital Nest, where I noticed first of all in the marketing industry, I believe it's like I think it said 2% of Latinas are in marketing, and
Wow.
then maybe like 8% are in marketing. And being in those different marketing teams, working for large corporations, nonprofits, small business, startups, I'm usually the only Latina on the team.
Mm,
I've never seen other Latinos or Latinx, however you identify. I've never seen any other people,
mm,
but I've always helped my community, and not just with marketing, but just with career advice. And they will constantly approach me asking me, like, hey, Vanessa, can I get some tips on my resume, interview tips, stuff like that. And because, again, it was so hard for me to land my first job in marketing, I want to help other Latinx and all underserved
mm.
communities get that mentorship. And with my podcast, Marketing with Cultura, and again, you don't have to be Latinx or any other community. Anyone can listen to it, but it is more niche down
Yeah,
and tailored to those
right.
audiences just because they'll understand examples that I share of experiences, good and bad, that I came across and overcame throughout my career journey. And that's why it's more focused towards them. But anyone can listen to it. I provide a lot of tips on navigating toxic work environments, how to create your portfolio, how to find a mentor, even mindset tips, because that helps a lot. I don't think people realize that if you're not in a positive mindset,
Mm,
everything else is going to be extra harder for you to accomplish, right? Or execute. Because again, I've been in those situations where I've had a toxic employer and my
mm.
mental health and my physical health was horrible, right? And I couldn't show up for myself, for my family, for my podcast. And right now, I can truly say I feel really happy. I'm in a positive mindset because,
Yeah,
again, my personal values align with my employer and my passion projects and
I
helping
love
the
that.
community.
Yeah, I love that, and I can relate. I feel the same way working with the Monterey County Business Council, and like your passion for helping the community with marketing and technology. I have a similar passion helping the community understand government and kind of the nexus of business and government. Because as you know, culturally, that's a complicated relationship, right? The Latino relationship with the American government is complicated, especially right now. And so, yet there's resources, there's rights that are available that people just aren't aware of. And I think it's part of the cultural of not really participating or benefiting from. Even we have Latinos or Latinx that have served in the military that don't take full advantage of their benefits, whether it's their VA loan or their GI Bill or their VA hospital, whatever the resources are. So I have a real passion to help take complex concepts or institutions or processes and simplify them so that they're more accessible to everyone. And similar to what you do with tech and marketing. So I love that. I appreciate all the work that you do for the community. Obviously, we could go on and on. And I'm excited. I love your podcast. I've watched a few episodes or listened to a few episodes. I think more people should do it. And I love that you're a local person kind of doing that. And the last thing I kind of want to cover, because I know there's some folks that are going to watch this and listen that are thinking, man, I want to connect with local people. Because if you're in Los Angeles or you're in the Bay Area or you're in New York, like this is totally normal, right? Like having your own business, creating content, totally normal. But in a small area like Salinas or Monterey County, when maybe you have on social media a lot of your friends from high school or your family members and you're nervous, like what if I post this and they're going to make fun of me and they're going to think I'm stupid or who do they think they are? We kind of tear each other down sometimes. What would be a positive reinforcement that you would share? Because I want to create this, and it's going to take a community, and you and I are part of this community with Crystal and others that we want to encourage people. Hey, who cares about the haters? Get yourself on camera, turn the camera on, and just start, and it'll go there from somewhere. So, what would you say as we close? What would be your advice to someone who wants to do this and maybe as a passion project and eventually a business, but they're nervous or afraid of what people will think?
So the first thing I would say is go for it. Even if you're scared, push through the fear. Because me personally, the only reason I was able to succeed in my different roles or have the career that I had was pushing through the fear. Even though I know a lot of us may have limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, I still have it sometimes, right? But even that
Me too.
won't prevent me from achieving my next goal. Because me personally, I'm driven, I'm passionate. I know I have a bigger vision,
Yes.
and I know that I'm meant to help our community, that I have to do it, even if I'm scared, even if there's haters out there, even if people are negative,
Yeah.
do it. And the people, I've heard like the phrase of, or saying that people that are successful would never say anything negative to you, right?
Right.
Someone that's rich isn't going to make fun of you if you're trying to save
Right.
money,
Right.
or a
Right.
fitness coach isn't going to make fun of you or say negative things about you if you're trying to get fit.
Yeah.
Only the people out there that are negative, that don't have
Right.
anything good going for themselves,
Misery loves company.
exactly,
Yeah.
will pull you down. So that's my first thing I would say. Just go for it and try to ignore. I know it's hard. Try to ignore
Yeah.
what other people say. Second, as a community, I think we should encourage each other, right? And it could be
100%.
something small, as if someone posts a video or publishes something, like that post, right? Leave a
Mhm.
comment so that way it could get more
Share it.
reach.
Yeah. Subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah, or if you are part of a network, invite someone, right? And
Right.
introduce them to people, because I think when you are nice and you help others, the world, the universe will reciprocate
I
and
agree.
great things will happen to you.
I agree.
So I know me for personally, I love helping others and I want a positive
Same.
and encouraging community and network, because then we do greater things together. And
Yep.
so again, for those of you out there that would like to meet up sometime, or for us to create like a meetup, please feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
You too.
Or if
Awesome.
you'd like more tips for your marketing career, feel free to listen to my podcast, Marketing with Cultura. It's on Spotify or Apple
Awesome.
Podcasts. But either way, I'm here to support you in any way that I can. And if you want to invite me to your meetings, to your events, I'm more than happy to go as well.
That's great. Well, make sure everybody listening takes her up on that. And I will say, what do you think of this idea? I would love to start doing events. I mean, there's lunch and learns and there's webinars and there's all these things. I want to start doing more in person, local meetups, like you said, but not meet up just to have drinks and chat, but meet up for the purpose of creating content because it can be cost prohibitive, right? Not everybody has the money to rent the studio or buy the camera or know how to produce. I'm kind of self-taught. I've learned a little bit. I'm sure you have as well. But and I believe in supporting our local media professionals, and they deserve to get paid well. I hate when people try to be cheap and not pay a videographer or a marketer what they're worth. At the same time, it can get really expensive as a hobby if you don't have the sponsors or the funding to pay for the professionals. So in the meantime, I think in starting with what we're talking about, creating that community of like-minded individuals from different sectors of the economy who do have a passion for content, and I want to do it locally, right? So like supporting a celebrity in Hollywood or in New York or Wall Street or DC, that's cool, but they're probably never going to know who you are, and they're probably not going to notice whether you support them or not. Whereas us here locally, we do, and we're probably going to run into you at the store or at an event, and so it makes sense to build that community. So I, for one, I know you are committed to fostering that safe space of, hey, let's support each other, let's be excited. And I look forward to creating more events and opportunities in 2025 for you, for myself, for others to share their story and to amplify those messages. So thank you for being a positive contributor to the community, both in person and digitally. And thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to share this with everyone and also follow your podcast. So thank you for your time. Any closing words, and then we'll go ahead and close out.
Just thank you again for having me on this podcast. And again, everyone go follow Jordan, subscribe to his podcast, and again, encourage other community members. And let's figure out a time for everyone to meet and network and help one another.
Let's do it. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.